Welcome to Cult Favorite, the podcast that is always full of blue light. I'm Miranda Simmons.
And I'm Mike Altman, and we are two religious studies professors trying to understand all of these cult documentaries you can't stop binge watching.
I'm wearing blue today. It wasn't planned.
Oh,
yeah. It's because the blue light is emanating,
fully emanating from you
directly.
Yeah,
yes.
The blue light. If you want to support a show, the show, any show really,
any show,
this one especially,
find them on social media.
Find us on the social media, the Instagram and the TikTok at Cult Favorite Pod, and be sure to subscribe to the show on whatever platform you're listening to it on, so you get new episodes in your phone or whatever every Monday morning or afternoon.
Feed. You're supposed to say feed.
In the feed, just a feed. Any views expressed in this episode are our own.
Yes, they are.
As experts and researchers in religious studies, and do not represent the University of Alabama or really anybody.
We're talking Kumare. Special
Kumare.
request. We take those.
Yes.
2011, Kino Lorber.
So, yes.
And it's like it's a documentary, but also a spoof, but also a long game method acting prank. Have you seen it before? What did you know about it? I can't wait to get into it.
I've seen this movie so many times. I use this in class.
It's a popular one.
It's a popular one.
Folks who are interested in the study of religion.
Yes, I use it in my Intro to Religious Studies course. I've used it in my Self-Society. Actually, we're using it on Thursday. Students have to watch it for tomorrow in my Self-Society and Religions course.
Okay.
And I got a text message from an unnamed colleague in the field who texted me asking if we had an episode on this, and I said,
we'll take a special request.
We don't. So if you're in the social scientific study of religion class at okay. SMU, hello. Thank you for listening.
I'm leading this conversation, but I'm not coming in fresh. I have seen this before, but I've definitely not taught it, and I'm interested in the ways that scholars use it as a teaching tool.
Yeah.
And so I can't wait to get into it. This is an oldie but a goodie, and it is Vikram Gandhi, who is a documentary filmmaker. He's made a few different kinds of things in genre. Like, he's a director about town. He creates the guru persona Sri Kumare. Gandhi he grows up in New Jersey. He's the son of Punjabi immigrants and observant Hindus. He goes to Columbia and starts making movies. As he grows up, though, he's getting increasingly skeptical about religion, especially with the boom and popularity of yoga and New Age pop guru culture in the U.S. And we've talked about this before, about how that culture and popularity invokes like surface understandings of ancient Indian teachings as a mode of authentication and legitimacy. But he finds gurus here and in India to be grifters in equal measure. So he decides to play a prank to embark on a documentary investigation. It's an
experiment. That's what he says, an experiment.
Sure. He's going to grow his hair and beard. He's going to imitate his grandma's accent. And he's going to move to Phoenix and build a group of followers with the help of two assistants. One of them is going to book events, and the other helps spread his she's a yoga teacher. And so she does the yoga moves and the philosophy, all of which are made up. Cannot stress that enough. Even the place that he says he hails from in India, he's just telling all these white people,
it's from my mind.
I am from this this village, whatever. It's not on a map, and so it's all made up. One of the yoga poses that they incorporate a lot is at the end of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures, where they start doing air guitar, as a symbol of uniunity. It's like if Warrior 2, it's like you're doing air guitar with Warrior 2. It's a Warrior 2. It's like a Warrior 2 air guitar mashup.
Warrior, Guitar Hero.
His teaching, in a nutshell, is I'm an illusion. You are your own guru, and you can enlighten and empower yourself.
Yeah.
which is basically not a lie in terms of his own teaching, but the way, or in his thought process that motivates this project in the first place. But he is curating it in a certain way. He's wrapping it in this veneer, spiritual jargon and vagary. They say stuff like, the seeker who finds the teacher feeds himself with the milk of wisdom, that kind of stuff, you know? And the plan with all of this is this curated prank, is to reel in these followers and then reveal himself as a fake to prove that very teaching. Gurus are unnecessary. All you need is yourself to feel empowered and happy. That all comes from within or whatever. But he gets reeled in himself in the process. He feels attached to the connections he makes. And then finally lets them know the truth as a big group announcement. I have thoughts and feelings, but 10 of the 14 stay in touch. And so people are generally basically, at least as we hear from them, kind of chill about it.
Yeah.
And it becomes a spoof of itself that teaches us that we're all connected in our ways of relating.
I just so not down with this.
Listen,
it's so funny to me.
I would party with Vikram Gandhi.
Yeah.
He seems cool as hell.
Yeah.
I would party with Vikram Gandhi. I have questions about the method applied to this documentary, and I am really interested in why you like this film and why you think it works in a way that perhaps my Scientology movie doesn't.
Did I not think my Scientology movie worked?
Well, you don't teach it a bunch, right?
I never knew about it until we watched it.
Oh, really?
So maybe I will.
Maybe you will.
I actually,
but I mean,
think
like why?
Because it's interesting you brought up my Scientology movie, which folks can go back and listen to our episode on that a few episodes back. I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but because this movie also I connect it to. I had to in my graduate seminar right now. We're using. Tenzin Eagle and Rebecca King's book on religion and film.
Yes.
And watching each of the films that each chapter is a different film. We're watching the different films and reading the chapters.
Got it.
And one of them is, the first one is Religulous. The Bill Maher film, which I hated.
Yeah, sigh.
Hated with a passion.
Big sigh.
But there's something about those three, like they all come out close together in time, relatively speaking. But they're all this similar style, like I just broadly imagine, a little bit different with Kumaré because of the gimmick, but it's the same kind of like bopping around, talking to all these different people, the way
motivated by an initial skepticism
of religion.
Yeah.
And so it's I think thinking about all three of them, like I did not like Religulous. I kind of enjoyed my Scientology movie. I don't know that I would say I like Kumaré, but I've found it useful.
I think you say love this film.
Did I say that?
In your notes. Yes, sir. So I'm appealing to text.
Love this film. How dare you read my words back to me?
Let me present you with your own text, sir.
As anyone who's ever come up to me and said, like, I like that thing you said in that piece, I don't remember anything I write.
I mean, really, this is everything to do with the thing. It's anyway. Okay, keep talking.
When I say I love the film, I have found it incredible. I love the film as someone who often needs a thing in a class, and it's right there.
It's a good teaching tool.
I like it in that sense.
What makes it a good teaching tool?
I think it has there's a number of things in questions that I find interesting that it does not answer, but that it kind of exemplifies in a helpful way.
Like what?
So when I teach Religion 100, one of the central questions is like, how do we define religion?
Yeah.
And I like the film because there are all sorts of people at different moments talking about, and usually in the kind of vernacular way that we talk about religion, where we're not, no one walks around saying like, my definition of religion is.
Yeah, sure. But
there are moments where you can pick up on the different kind of ways people think about it. And so I find it useful as like as a example to be like, where do you see what we've been talking about? Like I often in that class and the self-society religion class, I try to structure it so that I give them a thing that they have to, like, we learn all these ideas, these concepts, and I try to give them a thing to apply them to. And then I usually, after that, turn them loose to go find their own example.
Okay.
And so this is a really useful sort of second step for them.
Because it's so much about, like, the question in terms of how do we define religion in scholarship is to do with, like, what is the stuff we study.
Right.
Like, I can't study faith.
Yeah.
There's not an empirical, like, unless I'm telepathic, I don't have an empirical access point to belief.
Yes.
But what I can study is what you say about your belief, what you do with that belief, what you do in the name of, but, like, what are your rituals? What are your practices? Where are the things that you, So those kinds of social, societal, empirical elements that are connected to something called religion is in this film. Those things are very overtly staged.
Yes.
It's like, okay, so to create a religion, to be a guru, what are the things that I need?
Yeah.
I need a beard and long hair. I need a robe. I need to take off my shoes. I need to sport this accent. I need, like, there are all of these elements
that
that are
customized staff with my own symbol on the top.
And here's my teaching, and what, like, it is packaged and presented in a really deliberate way. And so then maybe that helps you to point students to what are these things.
It's got, what I always think of it in my head, I always think of it as like a rock climbing wall.
Okay.
And this is a kind of example that has a lot of handholds. So there's a lot of places to kind of grab onto and think with. And so not everything, it's just foreign enough to keep interest. And it's just familiar enough still. I mean, it's only, 15 years old now. Good Lord. So there's, like, I think it works in that way for me. In the other class, the self-society religions, one of the main themes of the class is authenticity claims.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of that happening in here too, in terms of, like, what is, I mean, the number of times, like, what real religion, real spirituality, true self. And then there's the kind of meta question of, like, is this a real religion? Like, what's up, and I've often, in fact, this, cause like I said, their students are watching it today to talk about it tomorrow. I often put it with Amanda Lucia, who's a scholar of Hinduism, South Asian religions. Her book, White Utopias, is super helpful. There's a chapter in it about authenticity and authority.
Sure.
And a lot of that, she talks about this language of true self, and kind of what she talks about is sort of self-authentication. Like, so,
because she's talking about a lot of these new age,
she's talking about the
pop
same
yoga things.
Yeah, the book's about the chapter specifically is about, like, yoga festivals and how yoga teachers authenticate and therefore authorize themselves as actually teaching quote unquote real yoga,
specifically marketed toward white, middle class, or people of means.
And she, but she does a great job of outlining this idea of kind of two different ways people do it. Some cite a kind of lineage tradition or some connection to India as their authenticating, force. Others, and I think you see it in the film here, is, like, the sense of self-authenticity. So if it feels true to me, if it helps me feel like I'm reaching my true self, then therefore it's authentic. Right. Which I think we could come, if we get to the question of, like, how everyone's so chill at the end, I think
we'll get there.
I think that's a piece of it.
Are we getting there now? Are we? I don't know.
I mean, we can't. I mean,
I see, because that's the thing. Like, Gandhi is playing with these questions of authenticity for sure. Yeah. Like, initially, part of his skepticism is, again, like, here are all these people posing as real gurus or real, like, spiritual leaders or teachers, but I find them all generally like full of shit, like, and so So to that end, I'm going to put on the surface veneer. I'm going to dress that way. I'm going to like with an aim of having people come to a place where they understand something about their own interiority. Like he is advancing an authenticity claim by way of questioning how authenticity works.
Yes.
Which is cool, but it also, to my mind, makes me wonder when we as viewers are on board. And I guess that's my question about and why I thought about my Scientology movie is like, when does this stuff work and when does it not?
Yeah.
When are we on board for manipulation and when are we not, basically? Because like with so many of the cult documentaries that we've talked about, this film is made possible at the expense of the very people it shows nominal compassion to. And so it's not to say that his connections aren't real. Like, I don't want to make an authenticity claim of my own.
Right.
I'm just saying in terms of like what makes this operate in the first place, it necessarily has to be at the expense of because we are in on the joke as viewers.
Yeah.
We know from jump the irony that is being staged. And these people who are in the film, I assume that at the tail end they signed a waiver or whatever. I assume that they have to consent, even if it's like, I don't know and I tried to look into that a little bit. I couldn't find anything about like what the paces were that he took at the end to make sure that it was cool to put this film out. Like, I don't know what the rules were. Like, have they changed since 2011? I don't know.
I mean, I'm assuming they all signed waivers to be interviewed.
But I don't know because initially, like, what are they being told in terms of like why there's a camera around? Do they see the camera? We don't know any of that. We don't get any sense of like what the production, like how am I making the film? We hear about how he's making the following. How am I building this thing? We don't get how am I building this film? So,
and the power of the camera and the film crew to authorize and authenticate him as an actual guru, right? So the idea that like, so his whole bit, like part of the reason Kumaré works and the way Kumaré is able to actually, one of the reasons to get a following that is sort of missed. It's presented as this kind of like pane of glass view of what's going on,
right?
But like the reason people, one could guess, I can't like, but one of the reasons people take the time to show up at a class to talk to him afterwards,
right,
is because there's a camera pointed at them.
Oh, right. They do some interviews of where they're talking to the person with the camera saying, I would follow him anywhere. Right. He's authentic.
Like, all that stuff is happening.
Yes, like, that's right. That's
it's one thing to have a guy in a
that's true.
An ochre robe running around saying he's Kumaré.
Yeah.
But when he's got a mic guy and a producer and a cameraman with him,
that's its own mode of authentication.
That's its own mode of like, this guy's at least legitimate enough to have these people following him around, filming him, right? Yeah. And so it's not just, part of what I think is missed is not just that like these people are somehow following Kumaré, but that they are participating in the production and at some level are aware of it because they're letting cameras into their homes. They're letting cameras into these places. Like, he visits multiple.
That's true. Yeah.
And so there's and it's the same way I think my Scientology movie is a bit more
overt about that, like self-aware,
because they're often being chased away from stuff and they're filming surreptitiously, and the Church of Scientology
you
is
turn
like,
off your camera, and then I'll turn off.
It's like all literally the camera is like this, this sort of prop in the whole thing.
Sure.
But it's not presented that way here, and so even another film that we need to get to at some point, Margeau.
Oh yeah, right.
Which was Academy Award-winning documentary from '73,
right,
about a Pentecostal preacher, revivalist, like that. Early in the film, like the first scene maybe is him talking to the production crew,
right?
And so so I guess what part of it is like we are in on the joke, but we're not. Like the film is both, if we want to borrow the wrestling term, working in terms of deceiving. It is both working the people in the film, his followers, but it's also at a certain level working us, of which all documentaries do,
Yeah,
right?
anything.
But it's also kind of working us by hiding the fact that, like, if you show up in Phoenix dressed like that with a camera crew, you're going to get more doors than otherwise.
Right.
Because I know when he calls to book a yoga thing, he's like, they're saying, I'm imagining they're saying, we'll have a camera crew with us because right. And so if I'm a struggling yoga studio owner in the competitive marketplace of Phoenix, Arizona, which is also a kind of hotbed for new age stuff.
Yeah, that's why he went out there in the first place. Yeah.
Then I'm probably like, yeah, this could be an opportunity. And we don't know if they're charging or paying or what. So,
I mean, in so many respects, the kind of nominal reason that cult documentaries are made, or documentaries about these groups we call cults are made, is to do with doing right by the people, the former members, giving justice to the former members, and so on. There is, again, I don't want to take anything away from his self disclosure or description of the relationships that he builds with the people who come to follow Kumare is one of great attachment and compassion. And so, terrific. I'll take him at his word. It is also necessarily the case that this is being made at their expense. Yeah. So it is, it's simultaneous, but it's kind of, so it's one of those, interesting, clever, but also kind of arrogant moves of like, I'm going to show you what's good for you by deceiving you. I'm going to trick you into understanding that you've got your own empowerment inside you all along. And so my question with that is, again, like what makes that work or not? It's not to say then that like, this guy's no better than, like, no, I don't, because again, that's never really my point. I'm just interested in what makes those interrelational, intersubjective dynamics between leader and follower, between group and viewer. But, like the audience and the group that we're watching on film, what makes all of those relationships work? Yeah. What makes those, in the same way that he's interested in, what are the paces that I hit in order for them to take me seriously as a guru? I think that, there are some paces that are taken and met for an audience to take seriously a film like this. Or just find it whatever way we find it. Whether we think it's funny, whether we think that it's cruel, whether we think that it's really enlightening, whatever for it to work. And it seemed to work, if by work we mean that it got critical acclaim. It has been used in a ton of classes. It did well. I
was trying to remember.
And also, too, the working for the members, because we do not, we see some people get up and walk out of his big reveal. But of course,
Tish.
we don't.
Tish is not happy.
We don't interview them. Instead, we get just like the hugs and the people who stay and the 10 of 14 are still in touch. We don't hear from the person, Emily, who...
Right.
They have this kind of flirty thing going that he is always saying like, oh, I don't know what to tell her because blah, blah, blah. But he makes that joke about his bedroom and stuff. And it's like, I mean, okay, man, but we don't hear from her after then. It's just like she left. So so what makes him work? To me.
This is good. Because I've always wondered, like, it's hard for me to not watch this film within the larger context of like gurus in America in general, and the ways that he is both and trying to see how he seems somewhat aware of this. Of this sort of tropes.
Right.
But is he like when you talked about the flirty thing with Emily and the other woman in the who's in the group, the younger blonde woman whose name is escaping me right now. There are these moments, and I was always like, okay, is that me just like projecting what I know? Because like the story of the Indian guru with lots of women followers is the story from the 1890s forward. Like Swami Vivekananda, the first kind of major guru of the U.S. In New York, has a ton of rich white women who follow him around and rename themselves and become his disciples. And so I was like, am I just projecting that, or is there this like subtext of like, because it opens the film with the creepy white guru guy talking about sleeping with his followers, and then it's like, okay, so are you? I don't know. It was just, I'm glad you.
Well, because he wants to show how these things become so easily possible. But he doesn't want to cross a line and exploit. Right. Which, great. Thanks for not crossing the line or whatever. But taking someone to the place in the first place. I don't know, man. I just, I think that there is a way in which our kind of snarky, we know better, we could like the compassionate move toward, which so many of these documentaries have, of like nobody joins a cult, anybody can join a cult, that whole thing. Don't think that you're immune to the pressures and manipulations of social coercive blah blah blah. That move is also, I think, always on the other side of that same coin is, I know better. Yeah. It's like, it's like the I don't know. He is his own, what he decides to do or not do in relation to that relationship is something that is still, it's at her expense. And I don't like what was happening to her emotionally and what she was entertaining as possible or perspective relationally or not. But in relation to her marriage that is for real falling apart.
Yeah. Well, and also like you don't have to include that in the film. Like that conversation can happen. And if you're like,
but that conversation was also, again, like he's making jokes about his bedroom, and I don't
like. I guess my point is like, even if you even if you had that conversation, and then had a moment of reflection of like, this whole thing
probably was kind of slimy.
That was probably you don't have to. Not, She doesn't show up. Like she didn't have to be included in the film. She's in the film for like 3 minutes, right? So there's like so that was purposeful for some reason.
She's a big plot point until she isn't. Until she leaves for California.
Yeah.
And then
anyway.
And
so I don't know. I think, I'm glad to see somebody else, because I was looking to ask students that. Like, did you find that scene odd?
I mean, but like, and why do we find it odd though? And what is it that like? What are the lines of, if the question is how do gurus cross boundaries of ethical relational behavior and take advantage of the teacher role and that power dynamic, there is absolutely still here a power dynamic being exploited, even though there is not a sexual assault claim in the end of it. So, and thank goodness there isn't, but also, again, like how manipulative are you allowed to be? It seems like there's a threshold. It seems like you're allowed to be manipulative and exploitative so long as it, is in this container of teaching someone about their own self-empowerment and that you don't ultimately need me. I don't know. I also thought that the meeting that he had with the Urantia leaders. Gabriel, and like this is the Global Community Communications Alliance, by the way, if anyone ever wants to follow that rabbit hole. Former members and people who've written about this group have absolutely called it a cult. And so he goes to meet them at one point. He hangs out with the community. He has an interview with the two leaders. And
the main leader, I was trying to look up his name.
Yeah, Gabriel.
Gabriel, yeah. So
He died last year.
I did not know that.
In August.
Yeah, but it's one of these like channeling groups where he's sort of channeled this whole book, the Book of Urantia. And so he is,
which is older than he is. Like he didn't create it.
No, he didn't
it's
create
like
it. He channeled. No,
yeah.
But there is a thing. But to his larger thesis of the film about like how the idea is that these leaders claim to be special. I don't think it's an accident. Like Urantia is an excellent case because this person literally claims to be the soul, the kind of conduit to the divine, which I think makes it works really well for what he wants to do. But yeah, what
he does with that community, though, again, like it starts from the premise of all gurus are phony. Mm-hmm. I am a skeptic. People who are in charge in religious traditions tend to be shysters. And when he goes and hangs out with this community, they seem chill. You know what I mean? And
they seem chill.
And great, because again, I don't love the initial labeling in the first place, except that it's like, I don't know, we're still participating in the adjudication of these people are grifters, these people are good. Yeah. This thing is legit, this thing is not. And ultimately, I don't know. I just feel like, so then what is, if this is just about your journey, okay, but the journey is happening at the expense of these people that you're also presuming to teach something to about themselves, which, okay, but then in the process you are, I don't know. I just think that it's an interesting. There are lots of layers of authenticity claims, and we still fall into the question, even when we don't mean to, of is this a cult? Is it not?
Yeah.
Because with Urantia, it seemed like the basic point was, this isn't a cult, don't worry. There are lots of communities that need to, like, that are just hanging out. And
there is a line where Gabriel says something about being divine, or they're all depending on it. There's some moment, because he then reflects and the voiceover comes in and says, like, I don't know if I agree with it.
Sure.
So there is a moment where it's like, oh, this is just another example of the same problem. Right. Because the whole point is that everybody he's talking to is like not, like everyone he's talking to are still saying, look at me, and he's saying, no, don't look at, like, not me.
What I read, it's always problematic to attempt to know authorial intent. How I read it is that what matters and what is important is building community. He talks about, and so where he finds community, he wants to highlight that as a net gain societally. So he talks about, like we see him go back to his like college reunion or whatever, and just feeling kind of out of place. And he talks about how he feels more himself, like Kumaré is his ideal self. But that's not how he initially started off with it. Like and so it becomes about that transition and like, oh, there is something to this. And I think it's about building community in vulnerable ways with people who are also searching for something in themselves. Like
the real guru are the friends we made along the way.
Right. Which terrific. 100%. But then what I think becomes interesting to think about and have, I think what becomes interesting to think about is what kinds of strategies we put in place to learn that lesson or something.
Yeah.
At one point he says that as Vikram, I define myself as where I live and who I knew. And as Kumare, I was nobody. I was an empty vessel.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really important point to make because, yes, what I think it demonstrates is not that some are grifters and some are not.
Yes.
So much as they are all empty ideological containers.
Yes.
That they are receptacles for whatever we place into them. And that is true of any social relationship.
Right.
Ever. If you're talking about a religious one with a leader and a power dynamic, if you're talking about my relationship with you as a colleague, I'm going to project all sorts of stuff into this ideological container where I place my needs professionally and what kinds of conversations I hope to have and blah, blah, blah. Like we're always doing that. And understanding that, having an awareness of that, hopefully helps us be a little bit more self-reflexive about what we're projecting and what the other person is actually bringing to the table in their own right. In this sense, yeah, like he's an empty vessel, but he's also bringing a lot to the table in his own right. A camera crew, some choices about teachings, and so on. And so one of the other things so I think that this is a good teaching tool for ideology. I think that so authenticity is one.
That's the other part of the same unit is we do ideology and then we do authenticity.
Yeah, it's perfect. And
shout out Craig Martin's article on ideology and Religion Compass. Very good.
Or like, some moments in Slavoj Žižek's A Pervert's Guide to Ideology, I think are useful.
Also show that in class. The one on the movie They Live.
Which clip do you show? They Live. Yeah,
Live.
That's a good one.
Not just because it has Roddy Piper in it.
That one's good. In terms of like why it's so it's hard to pay attention to these structural dynamics, and we resist that in so many ways. One of the ones that I find really useful is his conversation about Beethoven's Ninth, the Ode to Joy, and how this same piece of music as a floating signifier, as an ideological container, it is utilized and employed by so many different and dramatically competing contexts. And so you'll find it in like the radical left and like people's movements and communist movements, but you'll also find it, like used by like white Rhodesia, like in an apartheid state. You'll also find it, whatever, the blanket symbol of the European Union. Like, so all of these different groups and all of these very different leaders around the world at different times are invoking Beethoven's Ninth as this kind of symbol of universal mankind and so on. And then he stages a critique of that ideal. It's a good one. But that's kind of how this works. And so where Beethoven, if we follow Zizek, stages a critique of ideology because he's got this beautiful ode to joy, but then it is followed immediately with this kind of chaos musically. There is this empty vessel into which, called Kumare, into which all of these different people can place their own needs and hopes and dreams, and anxieties and insecurities. And what he's trying to do is stage a critique of ideology in the way that maybe Beethoven does. I just wonder what makes a critique of ideology successful or not. I think Beethoven's critique, I am compelled by Zizek's presentation of Beethoven as staging a compelling critique of ideology. I don't know that Kumare's staging of critique was as effective as the staging of the ideological container in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, it struck me to that point. It struck me watching it again how the very very beginning kind of prologue to the film he talks about his grandmother and her morning prayers and seeing how peaceful she is.
Right.
And it's interesting to me because I think that moment stands as a kind of like contrast to everything else, like, because then it's immediately followed by all these creepy gurus.
Well, and that was the guiding question of, can we recreate that? Because
Right.
that I'm going to take as a net gain. Like, that's a good. And I'm not going to question, like, that sense of calm seems good.
That's authentic spirituality.
Right? So can we create that calm in a context that isn't spiritual, except that in order to ask that question, he stages spirituality.
Well, and
to expose the grifting.
Well, but to focus in on that is to he pulls that moment of morning prayers out of all of its larger context.
Yeah.
So why, like, so the extent to which it is a daily ritual that is sort of done
right,
like
she's
regularly.
She's got
the point that it is a
tools.
It is part of a larger gender division of household work for Hindu householders. The fact that it's connected to larger traditions and texts and stories.
Right.
And so the idea that, like, and I'm not here to say
that is without staging.
Right. And that is without effect, that there's not an effective, like, yes, people, like, yes, all of it. I guess part of it is the easy 100 student who hasn't finished the course reaction watching the film before they step into the classroom. We discuss it. That reaction is often like, oh, see, he made this up. It's all made up.
Yeah, right.
Which is either, if you're a up and coming skeptic, you're a young.
Which is again that yes or no question that I find fundamentally unhelpful. That I think that these documentaries perpetuate, or rely on. At least.
What he's done is sort of close off his head. It's all made up except for things like my grandma praying, right? Which is only kind of protecting them because the authors of the Puranas or Vedas or whatever are lost to time or whatever. And so there's a thing where that's also made up. Like the morning prayers is equally made up. It just doesn't feel that way.
I think, well...
And so if you're going to go with the it's all made, like, my point is that the it's all made up point doesn't really get us very far. And so where I think the film doesn't work at the moments where it's leaning most into that, that's when it feels the most kind of shallow.
Well, or that if I don't know that I think to say that something is or isn't made up is to participate in leveling the normative judgment claim.
Yeah.
And because it's just so laden. So I don't know that we can say that something is or isn't. I think that to say that his grandma's ritual comes with its own accoutrements. It comes with its own context and specific dynamics that are not, floating in some kind of orb of blue light. Like, this was one of the things that he said was that, like, we're emanating, like, imagine a blue light, and that was kind of his symbol for what he was trying to access, that he feels like his grandma was accessing.
Yeah.
But so it isn't about this kind of yes or no question so much as it is about, because I don't think he was saying, to your point that, like, the only authentic spirituality is his grandma's prayer. I hear that. I think he would also, I think part of where he lands is that it's also in these hugs that I'm giving and receiving as my real self with these people that I've made real connections with. The connection is real, even though Kumaré isn't real. That, like, the guru is made up, but this connection that we've established is something that is real. So I think that that's placed in the same level. What?
No, I think you're right. I think I think though. So, two things. One, I think that the relationships we make are the real truth, the real blue light, all that.
Yeah.
Like, there is a underlying kind of theory of spirituality as a kind of practical theory of spirituality. Like it's even in the of the boom people, like this idea that as long as it works, it's real. And so, because he says at one point before he goes to...
that's why he has all of those, like, this person meditates every day, like the success stories, those kinds of things.
It's about...
It's working.
Right. And so, what was real or authentic about... If we say that the grandma's prayers are authentic, why? It's because of the sense of peace that she had. So it was the practical experience, the practical effect and effective experience. And then even he says when he starts doing... Before he goes to Arizona, when he's first starting to do all this yoga stuff, and he's like, I started to feel the effects immediately. And I think it's one of the reasons why, like, my favorite my favorite person in the whole film is Tish, the yoga studio owner.
Okay.
Because she's there for a very different reason. Because I'm not sure if the first class he does is at her studio or not, but there's only like 2 people there.
Right.
And then, but then eventually you look and she's in the back of the room and that whole place is full. And she's talking to him at one point and she's like, I've never known what my contribution is. Like, so she sees herself in this yoga lineage and she feels like she has to be doing, right? So she is there. She is involved with Kumaré for a very different set of goals than everyone else. Yeah. So when it turns out that he does the big reveal, if you're any of the people who met Kumaré in some sort of personal, whether it's a crisis or whether it's just a kind of personal looking or you're trying to figure stuff out, if he helped you, who cares if it's Vikram or not? Like, who cares if he's real, if it made you feel better for the last 6 months or whatever, right? Right. Not for Tish, because if it's not real, then this thing I've been teaching other people and selling to other people is not real. Interesting. I rely on a kind of lineage of like yoga instruction. And so you just kind of fucked me up like with this.
Yeah, I mean, there is a kind of...
So she storms out and never talks to him again. That's the punchline.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah. Like, I think that, it's sort of a... It's sort of a lesson in like the so-called placebo effect is still an effect. Like it's still a thing that you experience in your body, even if your brain and your body have this kind of...
It's an organizing principle for New Age spirituality. Like the idea of if it works, then it's real and good is how, if it works for me, then it's real. So it doesn't matter if that's the kind of mode you're operating in, right? Which is definitely not his grandmother's mode of operating. What was authentic and real was not about whether it worked or not. Right. I'm assuming. Right. But if you're so at a certain level, like his assumptions about like your true self, his whole project is probably less of offensive or less or felt less harmful to the people who stuck around and had a kind of positive feeling after the reveal because it already, like, just because of that approach they were already taking to spirituality in general, right?
He gets at this implicitly in the New Age shop toward the end, where the owner of the shop talks about the difference between a tool and a symbol, right? And that if a symbol is what Kumaré is presenting as unnecessary, the tool is still useful. Like, how can we create tools that are useful without the symbol? It's just that in order to do that, he creates this very elaborate symbol and manipulates people's sense of truth and reality. But what's your takeaway?
I mean, we've kind of already hit on it, but it's just sort of like, if we take this film as a critique of authenticity or a critique of the rhetoric of authenticity, it's still, even the critique of authenticity rhetoric has its own authenticity rhetoric because, as you already anticipated what I said, was it's like, because it is kind of a form of ideology. Like, that's what it's doing. Like, the amount of the social relations that produce his grandmother's calm are hidden by the idea of how calm she is and sort of pulling that out of its context. the relations that make the film possible, like all the stuff we talked about the camera, are hidden, like all of that. So there's just a there's no way, like it seems like if your question is is this real or not, or this is not real, that critique is always going to have its own authenticity baked into it, as opposed to the what is at stake in the claims of this authenticity, which he never gets at. Like he never gets at when he says why do people, he's always interested in why do people follow these gurus, which puts it on like the people's decisions, as opposed to what are the things that make these gurus possible to begin with,
which is what we talked about last time in relation to like the system and web, like coercion and complicity is a very complicated machine. It is not just individual entrepreneurs of our own emotions out there making choices like that agential like attempt at like that's just not that simple.
And he can't make that critique.
Well,
he could, but it would then be a very different documentary where he is self-aware and reflexive about his own ways of producing himself as Kumaré, right?
Well, I think he's, I mean, I think he's very aware of it. My takeaway, I mean, I'm a big fan of consent, and I just think that we should think about the contexts in which consent is a non-negotiable starting point. And when it is a thing that we're willing to suspend, like disbelief, in the service of a bigger cause or film or project or whatever. Because this was about people's the idea of finding something important inside themselves that, but they didn't get to choose that, like, you know what I mean? Like they were making choices along the way. They chose to find, like, whatever. They found him compelling. They chose to keep hanging out with him. Sure, except no, this was absolutely like not with their full. They were consenting based on very limited information. And we had all of the information, and we watched these people making choices with limited intel. And the fact that sometimes we will call the manipulation of someone's consent as like a creepy cult leader, and when we will call it a fun ruse in a snarky project made by a cool dude. I just think we should be aware of when we make those distinctions and how and why.
If he had posed as a Catholic priest, right? Like there's a thing about going to Phoenix and being a part of a world that the kinds of people who watch these Kino Lorber documentaries would not take seriously. That makes it possible for him to pull this off and then kind of be charming along the way.
There is simultaneously enough otherness and enough pop culture proximity. Like we have made so much this is just Tuesday at my yoga studio. And what that one guy said, Greg or somebody said that like he's straight from the Himalayas. So there's this kind of simultaneous distance and proximity that like that allows us to mess with it and exploit it and invoke it to meet our own ends without that seeming like its own cultural appropriation in a way that would otherwise, I think, bother us a lot.
Yes. And on top of that, this is why he needs all the interstitial visits to other fringe New Age places. Like, why do we need the musical guy, the musical healing guy?
Right.
Why do we need the visit to the
ranch folks,
to the ranch, or to the guy who he gives him the Osama bin Laden picture that he has to like like makes a little altar with Osama bin Laden and Barack Obama.
Oh,
remember
yeah.
this?
Okay, yeah.
And like you got it, because the idea is all of this is happening on the kind of fringe of our society, and so of course, right? Like, of course, this is made up. We don't have Kumaré. He's not impersonating, a Presbyterian minister,
right?
Which I think is a big piece of it,
right? Because we have kept that effectively rhetorically in the private sphere.
Yeah.
And we haven't incorporated that in the same way into pop culture with like yoga influencers and such. Like what the Presbyterian like corollary to that counterpart to that would be.
When people talk about yoga, I'm always like, well, imagine if people were recreationally doing the Eucharist. How would people feel about that?
Right.
Not that it's the same, but
well, speaking of in my cult favorite is an example of a transaction between two parties that is clear and agreed upon and works very much symbiotically. And so I just got my latest round of literary treats from Phonograph Editions, Phonograph with an F on both ends, and it's a nonprofit press and literary record label, but subscribers, if you do if you support them, then you get like periodic treats in the mail.
Oh, wow.
And so most recently I got like 3 different books, and one of them is a collection of like 4 different books of poetry by the wonderful Eileen Miles. There's a Peter Gizzi joint about the New York School. It's just every time I feel like it's like my birthday, like 4 times a year.
I'm looking
or whatever.
at this.
No,
this
I recommend. They put out really good work, and they support really exciting artists doing really cool things. And so, that's my transaction. Just because I just got their, I got a package in the mail. Yesterday, day before, and so that's what's most recently on my memory.
This ticks a lot of boxes for me.
It's terrific. High recommend.
I love
it's
like
$12 a month. It's cheaper than your streaming service.
No, I love mail.
So
I love stuff like this.
Mail is good. Anyway.
Well, no, and also this actually segues right into my cult favorite. So my cult favorite is a novel, To Smithereens.
Yes.
By Rosalind Drexler that you gave me for my birthday.
Yes, I did.
And so you didn't know this when you gave me the book, but I struggle to read fiction because I enjoy it, but I don't make time for it.
Yeah.
And so...
Ooh, did this one carry a little extra motivation because it was a gift?
Well, sort of, yes. It did feel a bit like an assignment, but that's okay in a good way. No, but because I always try to read, I always thought, I'll need to download stuff on Kindle on my phone because I always have that with me and I can like read all the time. And I don't because if I pull my phone out to read Kindle, I don't. I end up whatever. So this paperback just sat on. I have a shelf in our kind of entryway.
Yeah,
and it just sat on my shelf, and I would grab it like if I was taking a kid to a thing or whatever.
Yeah,
and sort of bits and pieces my way through it, and I was like, this was really. It was a great novel. It's about so Rosalind Drexler, writer, artist, was also a women's professional wrestler in the 70s. Right. So the book is not necessarily, she has a really...
That's what I say. It merged our two worlds of like weird art and wrestling.
And so it has, I love books about like weird seedy subcultures.
Yeah.
So it had all of that. It had the wrestling stuff. And it was very enjoyable.
Excellent. I'm so glad.
I recommend it. Drexler was a wrestler, and so the story is a fictionalized version of that, but she's also an artist.
Yeah.
So the protagonist's love interest in the whole is a art critic, and so
that's right,
a very particular kind of art critic. So yeah, I think I recommend it. But
that makes me so happy.
Now I'm like, I need to get more. I need to have stuff. I've also been accidentally hanging out with a lot of more literary people lately.
Accidentally.
Okay. Didn't plan on it.
We're okay.
No.
We're all right.
But I've been in
sometimes.
a lot of spaces with like poetry collections laying about that I pick up while I'm like eating a dinner. So
good.
the phonograph might be the answer.
Yes.
To
truly,
because
then you also don't have to do the research of like figuring out what to read. They'll just send you stuff.
That's what and
it's always going to be good.
That's where I'm at. I don't want to have to figure stuff out. There's too many things.
Yeah,
so this is great.
I will vouch for them. They do good stuff.
So thanks for listening, everybody. One more shout out to the students at SMU, I guess.
What do you mean you guess? How about a backhanded hi? Like backhanded compliment. You'll edit that later.
No, I was trying to decide if I wanted to add another announcement, but I will not for now. Special thanks to the REL Digital Lab and the Department of Religious Studies at the University of Alabama for production assistance. And we will see y'all in 2 weeks.